and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me to break down Week 3 NFL, our best bets, our player props, and other stuff we're looking at going into Sunday's action. It's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
What's up, Kyle? Man, I can't believe we're already in week 3 of the NFL season. Dude, it seemed like it took so long to get here, and now we're into the third week already, and our betting cards are starting to get kind of ridiculously long. But this is why we do this. This is why the NFL has our attention as much as it does, and I'm loving it.
Yeah. I mean, I was definitely not feeling this week coming in. I was like, I don't really see anything I like. You know, we talk earlier in the week, kind of get our vibes going, get some thoughts out there, talk injuries that matter, talk games that we may be targeting. And this is the first week, you know, obviously we're only in week 3, but that I didn't have something that was like immediately running to the window.
Yeah.
And here we sit on Thursday. This will be out Friday morning. 4 games I like, some player props I like, some other stuff I'm sure I'll add as we go along through this conversation. Firing on everything, spray the board. We're recording this obviously just slightly ahead of the Thursday night contest between the Texans and the Panthers. We were talking about that big bet on the Texans, the home team catching 8.5, depending where you look.
That's a big number.
This is a pro Panthers podcast that a team has been very nice to us. I'm very excited about their potential, but it does seem a bit aggressive. But Brian, there's one way to be aggressive, and then there's the Brian Twining method for being even more aggressive. Let the people know where your head's at heading into this Thursday night contest.
Well, we talked about this during the preseason, that one of my favorite under the radar like combos this season was going to be the Darnold to Arnold connection. And although they have yet to find pay dirt or really kind of establish that connection that I thought we were going to see, you saw Darnold get utilized down the field last week with over 50 receiving yards. And I think inside the red zone, he offers the best like big target, like big body target for Darnold. That being said, I got Dan Arnold tonight, first touchdown off the board, 18-1 odds. Woo! Yeah, small chunk of change on that. And of course, I back that up with an anytime touchdown. Still sitting at 5-1 for a guy who he lost some playing time last week to Ian Thomas, but I think that's more because he's not a blocker whatsoever.
So what's our obsession with Carolina tight ends? Like, we're just going to keep going to the well for him and hope one of them pans out?
Well, let me just say this. So Thomas's like depth of target this year, I think is sub 2 yards.
Yeah.
Whereas Dan Arnold is running, pro double-digit yard routes, and those are all of his receptions. So, I mean, when you're looking at fantasy asset, it's definitely Arnold, and I think he offers the best opportunity to score.
100%. So we'll talk some betting. We'll talk some, we'll look at the board kind of across the board. Hopefully, by the time you guys are listening to this, Brian's cashed that ticket and looking a lot better heading into the weekend. There's a lot of stuff we both like. We'll give you some thoughts. We'll give you some feels. We'll give you some picks. So Brian, let's just start out with it and let's give the people what they want. It's time for Brian's teaser of the week. We're heading into week 3. Who do you like this week, Brian?
Well, first of all, I want to reiterate how disappointed I am that Buffalo couldn't get another touchdown on the board and Miami could not muster a single friggin' point to hit last week's teaser. So let me just get that off my chest real quick.
We should recap the totals for the folks that didn't catch up on the both episodes.
True.
Some people probably dive in just for the best bets. Just so you guys know, I went 3-1 last week. Carolina was a win, +3.5. Titans +6 was a win. And I had Zeke over 58.5, which was a win. My only loss came thanks to those New York Jets. I will hopefully learn my lesson going forward with that. 3-1 on the week, 6-3 on the season, 66.67%. Feeling pretty good after about 2 weeks. We'll go with Brian's card. The team total for the Jets under, the much smarter guy than I am, was a win. The Steelers' first half team total was a loss. Your teaser, while it was so close, was a loss. Our boy Nick Chubb over the 86.5 rushing yards, over the 18.5 longest rush. Unfortunately, could not get over the century mark for the total yards. So Brian is 7-4, just right behind me at 63.64%. We'll be tracking these bets all season long to see how we do. With that being said, Brian, give us your week 3 teaser.
All right, so the first team that jumped off the board was Baltimore. I mean, they were laying a tremendous amount of points here early on in the week. It kind of got down to 7.5 when I smashed it. It's down to 1.5 on a 6-point teaser. So I love that. I took Buffalo, which the line is back down to 7.5 in there, which I don't understand. I'm still betting Buffalo against the normal spread, by the way.
So we talked about this a little bit, and I said I liked Washington. I do a betting contest for Bet Pros, part of the Fantasy Pros Network, and I got it at 9.5, and I'm extremely happy
That's a good
to have
number.
it there. I moving to 7.5. I don't know that I love it as much, but I do like where you're currently sitting.
Yeah, so getting the Bills and the Ravens both at minus 1.5 here on a 6-point teaser. Yes, please sign me up every day, all day. This one will come to quite a surprise to most people. Seattle at Minnesota. The line is at 55.5 right now. I teased that up to 61.5, and I'm taking the under.
I love it.
A little risky, but my thinking here is that Minnesota, they cannot get into another shootout with a team. Like their defense has looked abysmal. I mean, even the addition of Patrick Peterson has not panned out. Rashad Breeland is getting torched on the outside. Now he's going up against Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I think this is actually a spot where you see both these teams establish the run a little bit more. The clock's moving slightly, faster than what we've seen of late. And I think this gets under 61 for sure.
Yeah, I love that call. I'm hammering this game in DFS, but this is a very real concern for me that, we saw these two teams play last year. Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison combined for over 200 rushing yards. This could be a game where they both control pace, control clock, run it way more than anyone who played the pass catchers in DFS is wanting to see. I mean, I'm optimistic that the Seahawks have turned a new leaf, but even at 61, I feel like that's 61.5. That's a really good number. Like I could see this game being a shootout, really impactful, and the total ending up around 55, 54, 53. So getting that extra juice, I think, is a beautiful spot. And as I look to cobble together a teaser or two for the weekend, I think this will be one of the legs for sure.
Yeah, and then so my last one is, I'm going out on a limb here, but I find it extremely interesting that you have the Rams, a home dog against Tampa Bay. I know the Bucs have looked really good, but that defense just hasn't been able to stop people at the rate that I thought we were going to see. And the Rams, they got Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, and now minus Antonio Brown. Tom Brady lost his security blanket. Ramsey's going to shut down one of those guys, and then the rest of those defenders, past defenders on the Rams defense, are going to be able to do their thing. I think they keep this really close. Teasing this up to over a touchdown at home, I think, is almost a surefire win for me. Mark my words, they're going to lose by 2 touchdowns now. But
no, I love this call. I think it makes sense. I think it's crazy that the Rams are, I think the -1 makes a lot more sense than going through 0 to the other side. I also I think there's a good amount of points scored if you wanted to take the Rams and the over and tease them both down by 7. I think that's also 6 or 7 even would make a ton of sense.
So just to recap on my 4-leg teaser this week, we got Ravens -1.5, Bills -1.5, Seahawks and Vikings under 61.5, and the Rams at home +7.5 against the Bucs.
Yeah. Love the call. I'll hit my first bet, one of my favorites. I'm taking Seattle minus the 1.5 on the road. I'm really excited about this team and kind of the direction they're heading. I like the offense. As Brian mentioned, this could be a spot where it's a little more low scoring than many expected, and wouldn't hate Seahawks, Vikings and the under teaser as a move to kind of attack this game as well. But I like Seattle. I like them a lot. Pete Carroll against the spread off a loss as a favorite is 18-8. That's a number I can get behind.
That's crazy.
We saw in week 1 how good this team could be on the road, especially when they go inside. They whooped up on Indianapolis. I think they do this same thing here. I think this is a decently competitive game, but I think Seattle pulls away. I think they win this game by more than a field goal. So I'll take the 1.5 even on the road.
Yeah, I would like to add too. I'm pretty sure I saw this a couple days ago on the Twitterverse. Pete Carroll is something like 8-1 all time coaching against Mike Zimmer head to head. So I mean that just adds to the reasons to back Seattle in this spot here.
Let's go with another total for you, Brian, and let's talk the Falcons and the Giants under 48. What's your thinking here?
So the Giants' offense is just. What the hell are we getting with them? Whether it's guys
Daniel Jones, top 5 quarterback, just like I told everyone.
Top 5 fantasy, yes. So whether it's Darius Slayton playing like stone hands from unnecessary roughness and dropping wide open passes, or Saquon Barkley not being able to run 1 yard past the line of scrimmage, and then you have Atlanta, who, they have these weapons on the outside: Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, but this is still a team that with under Arthur Smith who's going to want to run the ball. And, they don't want to get into these fast-paced kind of games where they're throwing up and down the field, because their defense is not built to keep them in games like this. So I think this is a surprisingly low-scoring spot for both of these teams. And I actually like Atlanta getting the points here because I cannot trust the Giants and turnover machine Daniel Jones. But, yeah, I like the under in this spot.
Yeah, I guess that would be my concern, is if the turnovers mount and the offenses get in spots where they can score a little easier.
Yeah, but neither of them are very successful inside the red zone. I mean, Atlanta has been one of the worst red zone teams over the last, half decade or so.
Yeah.
So
I think this makes some sense. I like my boy Daniel Jones, and I think both defenses from a DFS perspective could make a ton of sense if you're looking for a cheap option. But I'm gonna roll with you on this one. For my next pick, I'm going with the LA Chargers getting the full touchdown. At 6.5, I didn't love it quite as much, but when I saw that 7 hit, that was a hammer spot. This is a Chiefs team that does not cover with regularity. They were 4-6 last year. They've already failed to cover at home as a favorite. As a favorite, after that Super Bowl run, they got inflated and their numbers are just a few points too high, and yet the public lines up to back them. And I think the Chargers are better than we saw. I think they moved the ball really well.
Yes.
And I think a big part of what happened is when they got in close, they just couldn't turn it into touchdowns. The good part is they're playing the Chiefs, who are atrocious at red zone defenses. They allowed 73% of their opponent's red zone opportunities to be converted into touchdowns. This year it's 100%. Every time through 2 weeks that the opponent has got in the red zone, they've scored a touchdown.
That's insane.
So I think the Chargers have a little more success. I love what they're doing with Mike Williams. I think Austin Eckler will be a big part of what they do. I think the Chargers win? Probably not, but I think they keep it within the 7, 3, 4, 5 points. I think is kind of where we're looking at this game finishing. So I will take the road team in a spot where, if the Chargers are as good as we think they can be, I know they lost Kenneth Murray, but we'll see what that can do. I'm still optimistic about this team long term. I think they're a pretty solid playoff team in a division that actually looks really good, with Denver looking solid, with the Raiders, on their way to 3-0 potentially. So that there's going to be some stiff competition. So they got to, these competitive battles in division. I love them, and I will side with the team getting a full touchdown.
Yeah, earlier in the week, I was on the side of the Chiefs here, especially underneath the full 7. I just think Kansas City overall is probably the better team, and then playing at Arrowhead gives them a decided advantage. But when it reaches that full touchdown number, I think that's kind of the turn the page mark of taking the Chargers. The Chiefs, they're dealing with a few injuries on their defensive line. Both Chris Jones and Frank Clark popped up on the injury report today as of recording this. The Chargers, Kenneth Murray and then Joey Bosa, I think, sat out practice today, but that could just be rest.
Yeah, but I think they're being super careful with him.
Yes.
Him and Derwin.
They're very important
to so much time over the past couple of years.
But yeah, so I think the Chiefs' banged up defense is gonna play into this game where the Chargers last week, like you said, they were able to move the ball against the Cowboys. There's just some poor decisions, some nice plays by the Cowboys defense, who, by the way, is one of the best teams in the NFL since like the latter half of last year, creating turnovers. So that's no fluke.
Yeah.
But so I think that says more about Dallas than it does at the Chargers. And I think the Chargers
100%.
play a lot better this week.
Speaking of your Cowboys, you like the under 52 for Monday night's contest between the Eagles and your boys.
Yeah, it's funny because everyone came into the season talking about, oh, Dak, this passing offense. And for me, I just kind of had this expectation that they realize you're not going to win games by just throwing the ball all the time when your defense was, before this season was probably the worst in the NFL. They're playing a lot better now, but they saw it last week. The method to success is you get this two-headed monster out of the backfield, Zeke and Tony Pollard rolling, and you have a lot better chance at winning these games because you're controlling the clock. You're limiting your opponent's possessions. And if the Cowboys defense has turned the corner as even slightly, what on the Eagles is scary other than Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts running the ball? Devonta Smith is good, but Cowboys pass defense has played pretty well, and there's nobody that scares you on this Eagles passing game.
Yeah, the Eagles are a team I like. I like the direction they're heading in. I like pieces that they have, but after watching them last week against San Francisco, they can move the ball okay, but they're not a team that's going to scare the crap out of you. Like I said, as long as you guys are healthy on defense, I like the pieces you have out there. I think you have unique ways to attack this offense. I like the running game where they're at. We'll see what Amari Cooper, if he can go full with him. If he's out with Gallup already out,
I think that
they could lean even more on the Pollard, on the Zeke.
Yep.
And I can get you a 52.5 with our friends over at DraftKings. It's 52 or 51.5, depending on wherever else you look. But I think this is a smash spot, and I also like the Eagles if you can get it a full 4. I think this game is within a field goal.
I have slightly different.
You could be a homer and go with your Cowboys. It's fine. I won't judge you at all.
I just don't bet on the Cowboys against the line ever.
I honestly, I almost never bet on my teams, but I bet on Tennessee last week, and I was very happy. And I took Ohio State to win the national championship at 12-1. A number that opened at 6. I know they look awful. I know CJ Stroud's not playing well, and he's injured now, but I'm still optimistic about this team. I still think they're the best team in the Big Ten, no matter what Michigan does to these scrubs. Anyways, let's keep it rolling. Brian, as we mentioned, we kind of entered Tuesday with not a lot of love for the board. Then our friends over at DraftKings and other sites decided to roll out the player props for the week.
Yeah.
And we're just going to start hammering them. I think there's a lot of value, a lot of potential. And as we're not part of some big gambling syndicate that's dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars per bet. So the low limits on player props doesn't really impact us in the slightest.
Yes.
Let's talk about your first one. Mr. Alvin Kamara getting is over under 4.5 receptions this week. Where's your head at with this one?
All right. So I just don't see the Saints continuing to operate the way that they have these first 2 weeks without getting Alvin Kamara more involved into what this offense is trying to do outside of just running the ball with him. This guy is the Christian McCaffrey light, or even up to par with Christian McCaffrey in terms of his versatility. And if New Orleans has any shot of being able to move the ball against New England, they're going to have to get Kamara involved in the passing game. And it's something that Miami did in week 1 with Myles Gaskin having over 5 receptions. I know the Jets didn't really utilize their running backs last week, but the Jets are the Jets. They're just pitiful. I think this is going to be Kamara's first boom game of the year in terms of usage. And he's going to see a ton more targets. He's going to see a lot of work out of the backfield. I think this is, upwards of 8 to 9 receptions this week against New England. And I think that this is when he returns to relevance in fantasy as well.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. He's too good of a player to just kind of not utilized. I'm not really sure what's going on. I think that gets cleaned up. Jameis is typically a guy who will check down a little bit too. It's not Taysom Hill out there. So
What's
I'm
interesting,
optimistic that this can come through in a matchup that is pretty nice.
what's interesting too about this number is you're not going to get him at this number at plus money very often either.
No.
It's currently sitting at plus 120
Yeah.
to get this. And he did this like over half the games last year. So yeah, give me Kamara all day at this prop number. I've already placed a small chunk of change on this over on one of our offshore accounts that we have, but
Pulling up the FTN prop shop just to see if there's any other numbers like we can get out there. Reception. So yeah, you can get it's 4. It looks like it's 4.5 across the board. You can get plus 130 at I don't even know what this one. William Hill. Caesars William Hill has it plus 130. So
no, see, I would much rather get that number right there.
Staying with the player prop, one of the guys that I will be talking about is Mr. Jameis Winston. I'm taking 3 quarterbacks to go over the rushing prop for the week. These are some good opportunities. Oftentimes you just need 1 or 2 decent rushes and you can actually hit the over. I'm not sure why. I missed one. That's who I was supposed to put in there. So I have 4. Let me actually pull it up, assuming I can actually find the one I'm looking for. We'll start with Jameis Winston. His over-under is 13.5. That's probably a second rush, but there's a possibility that he can get that with one just kind of decent long rush. Obviously, if he gets sacked a few times, it won't look great. But he can scramble enough to be productive. And I think 14 yards is very much in his wheelhouse. Oh, yeah. I think So Jared Goff's 10.5. I'm just confirming on the fly here. Jared Goff, 10.5. This is a guy that looks pretty dang good.
Yes, he
Detroit.
does.
Had 40 plus rushing yards last week. I think it is a guy who scrambles when he needs to. I was told Sean McVay made this guy what he was, and he was unable to be a decent quarterback in other offenses. So I will gladly take him. I'm taking Trevor Lawrence over 12.5 rushing yards. I think Urban lets him run a little bit more this week.
I like this one a lot.
That's an easy total. And my boy Daniel Jones, he of top 5 fantasy quarterback. His number is a little higher. You're looking at 27.5, so 30 yards. But I think he scrambles enough, and he's kind of a sneaky scrambler that doesn't look very comfortable and actually ends up getting a few more yards than the defense thinks he may get. So I'm just going to be targeting all 4 quarterbacks, hoping to hit 3 of them and have a winning week. And if I hit all 4 of them, then even better.
You're telling me you don't want to parlay these together?
I mean, I might do that too because I am a sicko, but I guess that depends on how well Saturday goes with all my college picks.
Yeah, I really like the Daniel Jones one. I mean, he's gone over this total like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 over double-digit amount of times already throughout his career. He has the ability to break off the long runs. He's one of the fastest quarterbacks in the NFL that people don't really talk about just because he trips over his own feet when in the open field. So
yeah, but if he runs for 90 yards and then falls down, you still get credit for the 90 yards. You don't need the touchdown.
But yeah, for me, Daniel Jones and Trevor Lawrence, they make the most sense for sure.
I mean, these are both guys that could run for 100 yards in a game. Like, will they do it every game? Of course not. Yeah. But having that ability at a total under 20 or 30 yards, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yes.
Let's throw out a few more props. There's some that you like. Go ahead and rip off the ones that made your sheet this week.
All right. So I'm looking in Pittsburgh to this thing that we call an offense. They said they wanted to establish the running game, and they're giving him the carries, but they cannot move the ball. Right now, Najee Harris rushing yards total is sitting at 64.5. I think that the Steelers are going to have a tough time moving the ball this week on the ground. I just think that Najee is stuck in a situation with a noodle-armed quarterback where teams are forcing them they're putting it in the quarterback's hands one-on-one on the outside, stacking the box, preventing Harris from doing anything on the ground. So I love that number. Tyreek Hill, over 25.5 yards for his longest reception. This is a dude that's averaging over like 16 yards of reception for his career, going up against a Chargers team who, yes, they're good against the pass, but I mean, we saw it last week. CeeDee Lamb, yards after the catch. Amari Cooper, yards after the catch. The tight ends for the Cowboys, yards after the catch. The Chargers have difficult time tackling people, and it seems every single week Tyreek Hill is open deep down the field with Patrick Mahomes. So I think that's a number that should be exploited everywhere. And then my last one, and probably my favorite, Tyson Williams, rushing yards prop is sitting at 53.5 at most books against the Lions in a game that Baltimore is close to a 8-point favorite right now.
Yeah.
This seems absurd.
I love that.
He's had over 60 rushing yards in both games.
It's a big Tyson Williams week. I think he gets more involved. I think he has a productive week, and yeah, I think he smashes that.
He clearly has the most juice too out of this backfield.
Brad Evans pointed this out on Twitter, but Antonio Gibson rushing yards, it's 60, 61, depending on where you look. I think that's. I know the Buffalo defense is really good, but I still feel like that's a smash in a spot where he should see plenty of volume. And my favorite of the week, and potentially my best bet, Marquez Valdez Scantling, over 34.5 receiving yards. I know he hasn't done a ton thus far. He didn't catch a pass in the game against Detroit. But this is a guy, in terms of air yards, that sits only behind Cortland Sutton, Brandon Cooks, Marvin Jones, and Tyler Lockett. These are all fantasy relevant guys in the top 15 among wide receivers. They're playing the Niners in a game where they're not the favorite, so they're going to have to throw. The Niners secondary is god-awful. If they connect once, this is going over. So I will take the over and take that to the bank.
Yeah, so just real quick, like that's one of my favorite player props to attack are guys with low numbers set for their receiving yards who have such a defined role in the offense as the deep guy. Because all it takes is one, and they hit their yards totals on one reception. Right. Even if he's only getting 4 targets a game, all he's got to do is connect on one.
And he's getting the targets. He's getting the yards. They're there. It's just a matter of Aaron Rodgers connecting with them. So. I'm very excited about this one. Let's talk about a few other bets. I have 2 more bets I'm making for my for my betting card this week. I'm taking Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears plus the 7. I think this is a good spot against. I know it's the Browns. I mean, you can get 7.5 in some spots. I will gladly take the 7.5. I think this is a lower scoring, close to the vest game. The Browns are without a few pass catchers. Potentially Odell plays this week, but it sounds like even if he does, he'll be on some sort of snap count. I think it's a lot of running. I think Justin Fields plays just fine, runs for enough yards, keeps this game relatively close, and they stay within the number. I also like the Miami Dolphins. I know the Raiders have been playing great. I know
interesting.
I know the offenses look good. I know that they're getting pressure with the defense. I know Jacoby Brissett's probably under center. I don't care. Give me the 4 points on the road with Miami. I think their defense is good enough. I think this is another tight, low-scoring game. You can get 4.5 at DK. You can get 4.5 at FanDuel. At one other place. So shop it. Find the best number you can. But I love Miami in this spot. I think it makes a ton of sense. Any other numbers or lines you're getting down on, Brian?
Well, you kind of jacked one of my first ones, and that's definitely Chicago. I love them with getting the 7. I know it's Justin Fields. He's a rookie going up against a ferocious pass rush by Cleveland, but Cleveland, even if Odell returns, I mean, what kind of snap share are we going to see out of him? What kind of usage in the passing offense are we going to see? Their offense is very kind of vanilla right now without anybody on the outside. And Chicago's defense has shown like they can stop some people who aren't explosive. So this is not the Rams offense passing deep all the time. So I like them with the number. I already talked about it.
It's kind of scary that we're both on the same page there.
Hey, yep, that's
You might
exactly what we
want to
talked
bet
about.
the alternate line of like Browns minus 13.5. Because when me and Brian are on the same page, it either goes amazing or it goes horribly. We never really know. So bet the Bears money line and bet the Browns minus 13.5, and you'll probably hit a nice winner.
Yeah, and then I already talked about this. I love Buffalo. I'm ecstatic that this line keeps dropping. It's minus 7.5 at plus money. It's at even money right now. I hope this gets down to an even 7, even possibly under 7, because then I'm really smashing this. I just think that their offense will eventually start hitting on all cylinders. Their defense has yet to allow an opponent to go over 252 yards is their max against Pittsburgh and Miami. I know Miami was Tua and then Jacoby Brissett, but this is the NFL here. This is not college football. So I think that their defense will be able to stop Washington.
I wonder about their offense. It really feels like they're being super safe and secure and not doing a ton of stuff because they know their defense is so awesome. And I know they were incredibly fun last year. And I'm really hopeful because I keep playing Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis and DFS, and I play them in my season-long leagues, and it hasn't hit yet, but I keep waiting for it. But yeah, their defense is awesome. They can run the ball kind of. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary both look decent enough. It's another good defense in Washington. Their front seven. The way to attack Washington is via the pass. So this is the week to see that explode. But I'm like I said, I'm on Washington plus 9.5. I at 7.5. I love it quite as much. If it hits 7 or less, I'm going to be staying completely away. I also kind of like the Saints. I liked it better at a full 3.
Yep,
you can get that. I think that makes sense against New England. I'm just gonna ping pong with the Saints every year, every week. When everybody's on them and they're the favorite,
sir.
I'm gonna avoid them. And when they're the underdog, catching too many points, I will gladly back them.
I think it's interesting. So the Jets team total in points this week is at 14.5. I might go with it again. Just take the under until they show me that they're able to move the ball against elite defenses.
Yeah, Zach Wilson had 3 interceptions in his first 5 passes. That's not really what you're looking for. That's not a path to victory or path to success. So yeah, I think we just need to fade the Jets. And I know, the 10.5 is a lot, or even 10. So maybe something like a team total makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, because it is. As much as I think Denver is going to dominate this game, anytime you're laying double-digit points in the NFL, that is a tough number to cover. Just because these are professionals. These are the top,
especially with a Teddy Bridgewater, Melvin Gordon led offense.
Yeah. They're one of the most efficient teams in the NFL. Bridgewater's second in completion percentage right now. So,
but when they're up, 21-3, how aggressive are they going to be?
Very true.
Maybe Zach Wilson just throws a couple picks or sack fumbles, and maybe that's how they get there. But I
could definitely see that happening. By the way,
the Broncos and the under on a tease sounds pretty nice too. Cool. That was our bets. Those were our props. All that good stuff. Brian, that leaves one thing and one thing only. What is your best bet for NFL Week 3?
So I'm going player prop route this week.
Woo-hoo!
And I just don't understand why this is set so low. And that's the Tyson Williams over 53.5 rushing yards. I think he absolutely destroys this number, possibly even in the first half. I think that this is the game that we finally see Baltimore utilize him as the number one guy in this backfield, as the guy with the only juice. Devonta Freeman had one run and then was probably gassed for the rest of the game last week. And then Latavius Murray, he's the hammer, but he does not have the burst either. So Tyson Williams over 53.5 yards, my best bet of week 3.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Man.
I apologize for my eyes looking over, but
no,
Carolina's in the red zone. Just would like to.
Dan Arnold season. Oh, please let him score his first touchdown on the podcast. That nothing would make me happier.
All right.
Do I want Jared Goff? Do I want Trevor Lawrence? I think
Fuck.
not him.
Sorry. Sam Darnold just ran it in.
Love to see it. You'll love to see it. I'm gonna go Seattle minus the 2. I'm gonna trust Pete. I'm gonna trust Russell Wilson on the road.
That's huge.
I love those quarterback player props, but I think I will take the Seahawks minus the 2 on the road in Minnesota. I think they get it done. I think they look good and cover this number pretty easily.
Now that's going out on a limb with a West Coast team going east. Well, mid east, I guess you would call it, Minnesota.
I don't think they're going to the Middle East, but we can.
Whatever, you know what I mean.
It's like the new London game, but yeah, no, I mean, yeah, but they went to Indy. I think they can do it again.
But all the data is saying that Seattle should win this matchup.
Yeah. So that's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Let us know down in the comments your best bets. Make sure you smash that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're pumping towards 300. We're pumping towards 500.
Yeah.
At 500 and at 1,000 subs, we'll figure out a way to do a giveaway, pay you guys back for all your support. We really do appreciate it. We'll talk to y'all next time.